soon. Afghanistan is in the grip of a long-term structural instability and insecurity. It's going to take another generation, or 2 generations, or 3 generations before Afghanistan could recover even from what has happened in the last 42 or 43 years or so. I think in the first instance, if the Taliban don't change their way, and they don't try to come to terms with other minorities in Afghanistan, and of course, half of the population of the country, that's the women, the girls of the country, then I think you're going to get growing internal resistance as well as armed groups operating from outside. That has already begun, and it is, and they are engaged in a hit and run operation. So, if the Taliban don't change, then the only other option is to make sure that they are blasted out. And that's not an easy task either. You know, there is a Malawi's poem. I will say it in Persian and then translate it. میگه خمهاست از این بالا، خمهاست از آن بالا، تا نشکنی این خم را هرگز نچشی آن را. There, of course, he's talking about tasawwuf. There are jars of this one, and there are jars of that one. Until you don't break this jar, you're not going to be able to taste the other jar. So now Afghanistan is precisely located in that situation. Should one jar be broken in order to be able to taste the other jar? Or is there any possibility that the 2 sides could come together and reach an understanding for the sake of the country and for the future of the country?
Thank you. I'm inclined just to say all of that, but let me just try and add a few comments in case. So first of all, one I particularly want to pick up is what did we learn from the Soviet intervention and its failure in Afghanistan? So about 15 years ago, I was in Moscow and I took a parliamentary delegation from the UK to see General Gromov. It was the height of the Obama surge. General Gromov, of course, was the commander of the Soviet 14th Army, the last man across the Friendship Bridge when the Soviets pulled out. So he turned up in his uniform, great big hat. He has the kind of voice that it takes a lifetime of vodka and cigarettes to acquire. He went through a very, very long list of the mistakes that the Soviet Union had made in Afghanistan. And he paused, looked at me with a half grin, and went and started on our list of mistakes that we were making in Afghanistan, and we didn't. This is, I think, a really important point here about humility. Second point I wanted to make, it's about liberal interventionism. Whole books are being written about the failures of liberal interventionism. Some of us may one day write our own. I mean, I think maybe the most useful thing I can say here is remember Clausewitz. You know, war is the continuation of policy by other means. It is, if a policy does not make sense, war will not get you there. You know, when you are conducting military operations, you need to think not only about the operation itself, but what do you want to happen? What is the path to peace? How are you going to get there? And that seems to me to be the question that runs all through Professor Saiqal's book, my own book, books being written by others. The problem is we didn't have good answers to those questions. My third point, the conflict hasn't ended. It most certainly hasn't ended, and the consequences of that will be coming for many, many years, I would say generations. But I think there is just one tiny, tiny thing to hold on to here, which is what people know that they did not know 20 years ago. And one thing that I really cannot leave the conversation without just saying a few words about, it's about women and girls. So I did an event in Cambridge a few months ago with Zara Joya. Many of you here will know her, most of you will know who she is. She made the very, very obvious and compelling point that if you're not educating girls, you're not educating and if you're not educating your children, the country has no future. So I think for people like us, it's making sure that people like Zara have the space to put that argument across, and over time win it.
Great, thank you so much. I'm afraid we are out of time. I know, I'm very sorry. I know there were many more questions, but we do have to be out of the room in about 15 minutes.